Hello and welcome to episode 35 of The Racer's Edge. A new look Racer's Edge this week as we segment the show for the benefit of YouTube viewers. You can still watch us full-length download on iTunes, but if you're watching on YouTube, stay in touch. We'll have lots of new content in the form of playlists on a weekly, almost daily basis from here on in. Looking back this week, of course, at the Airtel Indian Grand Prix and ahead to the Etihad Airways Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. 4 world championships in a row for Red Bull Renault, secured in India. Sebastian Vettel, a 4 times world champion now. But lots to be talked about as we go to Abu Dhabi, particularly in the world of GP3 and GP2. We'll be looking at that in further detail into the show. Our guest lineup this week includes none other than John Surtees, Sir Jackie Stewart, the GP2 championship leader, Fabio Lima, and also the man behind Renault's track operations and partly responsible, of course, for their 12th World Championship now, Remi Taffin. We spoke to Remi upon his return from India to get a taste of what the atmosphere was like at Viry Chatillon, headquarters of Renault Sport F1. Remi, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and many, many congratulations on 2 more World Championships won by Renault. What is the atmosphere like at Viry Chatillon?
It's very nice. I've been there this morning and just arrived from India, and obviously everybody is smiling, everybody is happy, and even if, as you say, maybe the fourth in a row and the 12th and the 11th, depending on its constructor or driver, everybody is still enjoying it, and that's the real pleasure doing this sport. I mean, everything we win, it's even if it's again, it's always the same, atmosphere. You see everybody is happy, and at least they've got all the reward from all the work they've done. So it's really a very good day for us.
I can only imagine what it's like there. I think I'm probably one of the few people now in Formula One that actually saw Renault's first Formula One race, Silverstone 77. I was there when Jean-Pierre Jabouille won your first victory, and we kind of take Renault for granted now, but I know what the atmosphere is like there, and you're all a bunch of racers. You're just a great bunch of guys, and I know Rob White has worked so hard for this as well. He's a bit of a sort of Adrian Newey in his own way too, eh?
Yeah, definitively. I mean, I think in Renault we've got a lot of respect for Adrian, and he did a fantastic job with his cars, whether it was in the 90s or in the days now, but I think we've got a very good relation, and the work achieved is obviously shared, and we have a lot of respect for them, and also I have myself a lot of respect for all the work done by Renault, because as you say, it's now nearly 40 years that they're doing their job in Formula One, and I think that the number of wins and victory just speak for them, and it's a real pleasure to be part of the Renault team.
Remi, I know also we take for granted the performance of the engines these days, although I have to put my hand up and admit that I was one of the people that thought that at the start of the year Mercedes might have an advantage, only because they appeared to have a different power curve, let's put it that way, to you, and maybe that the aerodynamics were going to be more comparable from team to team. But as it's turned out, 2013 for you, just brilliant. Can you in any way talk about how this engine is different from last year's? I know how tight the regulations are, but in terms of efficiency or anything you've been working on, can you describe the 2013 engine for us?
Yeah, definitively. I mean, it's a work in progress. We actually been, as you say, we've been going through an era which is supposed to be frozen in terms of engine rules, but effectively the engine itself has not really changed. The crankshaft is still the same, the pistons too. But the way we used it, and the way we also got the engine installed in the car, and particularly if you look at the Red Bull or even the Lotus now these days, it's really well integrated, and I think we actually share with the teams how to exploit the engine. And you quoted the power curve, and obviously maybe we haven't got, and maybe pretty sure we haven't got the most powerful or the better peak power of the engine in the pit lane. But I think we've got maybe the best one, because we knew during these 4 or 5 years how to play with it and to make the most out of it. And I think the key when we put an engine into a car is just to make the car quicker. It's not a question of having the more powerful, the more efficient or whatever. It's just making the engine part of the car that go the quickest. And I think it is the key.
Well, you've done a brilliant job on that. Just before we get on to Romain and Marc in the last race, how was Sebastian's engine in India? I actually watched that race completely on board with Sebastian from start to finish. And I must say, when he was doing some of those passes and he was at the end of the DRS zone, you really think, wow, it's just incredible how reliable these engines are. I know he's sitting on the rev limit there, but very impressive. But what was it like from trackside in terms of telemetry and what his engine was doing?
I mean, from the inside, it was a pretty, let's say, standard race from this point of view. But you know, even if we know that the win will come at one point, it's always very difficult. You follow the engine during the race. It's not tough time for the engine, and you always try to track any small clue you could have to make sure that anything is not going wrong. But to be completely fair, it has been very easy. Obviously, we had a small let's say a small surprise in the race where when we lose at one point a sensor on Seb's engine, which given us a bit of a fear, but it was only a sensor, so eventually everything got fine. But you can understand in this situation, you just see things maybe much bigger than you should see them.
Yeah, similar to the atmosphere in those old Apollo space shots when they'd lose a sensor or two and everybody would think there was a panic mode, but in reality the thing would land perfectly and it'd all carry on. We just take it all for granted. Tell us about Marc's alternator problem. That was a real surprise.
Yeah, definitely. It's a surprise for all of them. We talked about a lot last year because this part is, I think, now well known, unfortunately for us. But we've been doing our normal stuff since last year, and we've put in place everything we needed, and we went through the winter without any problem, and obviously the first 15 or 16 races without any problem. And I think it's, unfortunately, a part that has failed as any part that could fail. There's no big reason, nothing we did wrong, nothing that the team or the driver did wrong. It just happened. So now we've got the part back in Viry, and we are doing our normal investigation because we need to make sure and secure that we're going to cross the line for the next 3 races because we really like to win this last 3. And
Romain's air consumption, you had a problem with that in Singapore, and then again, beautiful management yesterday. Tell us about how you did that. You're actually controlling the consumption of the air in the engine in terms of mixtures.
First, I would say it was a very tricky one, and it's obviously you always need a bit of luck. And I think this time we got enough to cross the line, but it's a very good reward for the track team. I mean, the guys that work from Viry at Lotus did a really good job for this race, and obviously Romain did execute the plan perfectly, and he bring and nurse it to the end. Basically, what we see is, I think, is from mid-race we saw the engine air consumption going, let's say, crazy, and the real big drama is when you look at the data, you know that if it goes like this, you're not going to be crossing the line. So you imagine, 30 laps before the end, you may be not going to make it. So then starts the work about how are we going to nurse this to the end, what can we do? So that's why maybe you heard on the radio, we asked Romain to, for example, first short shift so that we can try to get the engine air consumption down, and then there was much more conversation over the radio while we were trying to find out what it was, and eventually we had to do a bit of I would say a bit of a pray, maybe 1 or 2 laps to the end, because we actually were in complete fairness running out of air. So let's say there was no air anymore in the car, only in the cylinder, the pneumatic cylinder. And that did survive for 1.5 laps, so it was like very, very frightening at one point, but eventually we got it right, so that's what we will remember, I think.
And looking back at Singapore, do you think you could have finished Singapore if you'd used similar methodology?
No, because basically the Singapore one was too, let's say, too rapid. The loss was too quick for us to get to the end. So basically, in Singapore, we knew we're gonna end up within 5 or 6 laps So that's why we tried this parade stop and see how it goes, but we could not lose the engine. Whereas when we got to India, we know that we were looking for trying to get 2 or 3 laps in. So that's what we were looking for. And we knew that we would get to the end, and I think maybe 1 lap remaining, we say, okay, we just give it a go, and it went through. So
very good.
That's very good racing. I mean, that's nothing you can you can go through more than this.
No, and if anybody knows anything about pneumatic valve springs, it's Renault. You introduced it. You innovated it in Formula One in 1992, I think.
Yes, not sure about that time, but I will rely on you.
No, I think it was 92. Remi, one more question. Does that in any way, these problems, does that affect in any way the engine usage over the remaining 2 races of the season from your point of view?
No, definitely
Sorry,
not.
3 races. Sorry,
no,
wrong,
definitely,
3 races.
yeah, 3 races to go, and it's not going to be changing anything, because first we're going to be introducing new engines for Abu Dhabi that should do the last 3 races. So anything we would like to do, we will be able to do.
Right.
And if we need any changes, and the engine, whether it was Mark or Roman, did not actually suffer from the air consumption or the failure we had in the alternator. And again, it's all about giving the right call, and I think we asked Mark to stop on track at the right time, and at least we saved the engine.
Very good. Okay, well, the final point, Remi, is your appearance on the podium at the Japanese Grand Prix, about which the Formula One world is still talking. First of all, what was it like from your point of view to be there with 3 Renault drivers, and also the quick change of shirt was very impressive as well.
Okay, let's try with the first one. The first question. No, it's always very very big emotion to get onto the podium, because I can remember the first time I got there with Fernando when he won in 2006 in Silverstone. I got the opportunity with Renault F1 team to get there, and it was actually much more easy being part of the team to get there, and I could get the right shirt over there. But no, it's very impressive. I mean, when you are on top of all these people looking at the winners, and obviously the winners and the second and the third were powered by Renault, so it's a very big thing for all the people at Renault, because I think when I get to the podium, it's not only obviously for me, but it's just for the world people here in Viry Chatillon or in France or Renault, and that makes it very very special, especially when we are an engine manufacturer now. And that will also explain why I had to do this quick change, because eventually there is a regulation also above ceremony on the podium, and there should not be any non-team member on the podium. So you imagine that in the let's say emergency, I was told to put that shirt you see me with on the podium, but it does not change the fact that I was there as a Renault member, and I still thank Red Bull to give Renault the opportunity to show off on this podium.
Well, I think if nothing else, it shows how much Red Bull value the relationship, but the fact that they're able to do that and think that clearly in that sort of frenzy of emotion. Brilliant stuff. Remi, we'll let you prepare for these remaining 3 races and to get motivated for them. I know you don't need that motivation, but it'll be different for the team. Obviously, inevitably, it'll be different now the championships have been won. How are you feeling about these remaining races?
I mean, you're right. It's now let's say we did it, but I think the motivation is still there. You know, when you get champions, you still want to show off, and I think there's 3 races left, and if we do not try to win them, we should not be champions. So I think we will do everything we can, and as we already discussed, we have a few more work to do on our engines, and we will do everything we can to cross the line, because we know that if we cross line with particularly Red Bull and Lotus, we can do a really good thing for the rest of the season, and we still hope to try to help Lotus to secure 3rd or 2nd place in the championship.
It'll be very very interesting to watch that. Remi, thanks so much for joining us, and all the best in those 3 races.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remi Taffin. It'll be really interesting to see whether Renault do get on top of those niggling issues, but nothing should detract from the achievement, the 12 World Championships and the 4 in a row with Red Bull Racing. Brilliant stuff from Viry Chatillon, Rob White and the boys. 1977, Remi said 40 years ago. It makes me feel quite old. In fact, it was only 36 years ago. Thank you very much, Remi. And of course, 77 British Grand Prix, where that Renault Turbo first appeared. Also famous, I think, for Gilles Villeneuve's first Formula One race. Drove for McLaren. Here he is. And here's Alistair Caldwell, who we all know and love from this show, having a laugh, as ever, with, I think, Leo Wybrod on the right there. Leo, a McLaren mechanic then, but also went on to be a Cosworth man, but prior to his McLaren life was one of the leading Team Lotus mechanics. So nice to see those pictures of Gilles.